Hi everyone, welcome. I will slowly let you all join me in the meeting. So I'll give you all a chance now to get in the room. And then once we've got everyone here, we will get started. Welcome everyone to the kickoff event of the Kite AI Global Hackathon 2026. I hope you're excited to be here. Thank you for joining us for the kickoff event. I'm slowly letting everyone into the room, so I'll give everyone a chance to join, and then we will get started. The goal of the session today is to go through everything you need to know to participate in the hackathon, and also to have an overview of Kite. So we have Vik from Kite joining us to come and give us an overview. So hopefully that will set you up nicely to get started in the hackathon. Today is a great opportunity to meet some other people building in the hackathon, and also to ask any questions that you might have, any questions related to the logistics of the hackathon and also the hackathon theme itself. So please do utilize the chat for anything like that, and we'll try and get through everything in the session today. I do not see Vik yet, so I'm gonna shoot him. He hasn't joined yet. So I've sent him that event invite now. So he should be joining us shortly. But in the meantime, I will go through all of our logistics before we hand over to him anyway. So as he joins us, I will get started by taking you through everything you need to know to get started in the hackathon. That is what you need to know in order to participate. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen here. So hopefully you see my screen, which is showing the website page for the hackathon, which you have already gone through in order to access the event today, I hope, and also to register and find out more about the hackathon up until this point. I see Vik is here. Vik, nice to see you. I'm just going through the logistics, and then we will hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if the crowd can see you. I think you might be backstage. But yeah, it's great to see you. Okay, so everyone, the things you need to know to get started in the hackathon. TLDR, everything is on this page. If you've already had a really good look at it, then you already know everything you need to know, especially if you participated in Encode Club hackathons before. You're going to be a pro. There's nothing I'm going to tell you that you don't already know. But I will take you through it anyway. Please do let me know in chat if you have specific questions for me to answer in the session today. Okay, so on your hackathon page, there are two pages that you're going to have access to. You're going to have access to the public page, which is where you registered. And then you're going to have access to your private page once you're accepted onto the hackathon, which is what you need to access in order to do everything important in the hackathon. That is create your project, that is join your team, that is submit anything in the hackathon, which I'll talk more about in a bit. So you're going to want to make sure that the most important page that you're going to is the opening program button to take you to your private page. So this is where things are specifically related to you and your application. So once you're on this page, everything that you need to know from now is listed here in good detail, but I will talk you through it now as well. We have our schedule for the hackathon. So this is a 4-week online event. We're kicking off this week in week 1. You actually could have been building from Friday of last week. But if you haven't started building yet, if you're still in the ideation phase, that's absolutely fine. At the end of this week, we have our first milestone deadline. So in Encode Club hackathons, we set you checkpoints or milestones throughout the hackathon to make sure you're on track, to make sure you're ready for the final submission so that you don't let yourself down at the last minute. So our first milestone is to create your project and add your team members, and also to share some of your idea. That's not to say that anything that you put here is permanent. You can update all of this information until the final deadline. If you make a pivot, if you swap teams, if you change your idea, you can update that all on the platform at any time until the final submission. But we want you to create your project early so that you know what you're doing going ahead, and it gets you ready for the second submission, which is in end of week 2, start of week 3, which I'll tell you about in just a second. to give you a walkthrough briefly of what creating your project means, you quite simply need to put a project name in here. An optional description, you don't need to. You can add an image and then you just press create project. And now I have a project with the name. Ideally, you would have something a little bit more inventive than this. Something to bear in mind is that teams fall short when they use ChatGPT to generate a project name, and then they end up with the exact same project name as another project in the hackathon, and they're very hard to distinguish between. So be more inventive, think of something creative to put as your name, and this is what your project is going to be known as. So put some time into it but before you create your project. Once you've done this, you can also add your challenges. So that is letting us know which part of the hackathon, which track in the hackathon you're participating in. I'll go through more detail of what those tracks are in a second, but this is where you select them. And you can also add team members by using this join code button here. If I show you what this means, that join code, that unique code that I just showed you, if you were to be joining a team, you would just enter it here, press join project, and then you would be added to the team of the project that's already created. So this is only relevant to those of you who are building in teams and you want to make sure that everyone in your team is associated with your project, so that you get the recognition if you were to win, of course, but so that you get all the communications as well, and we know what project you're associated with. So this is the first thing that you need to do in the hackathon 1 week from now. The deadlines are generally Sunday at 11:59 p.m. UTC -12. What this means is if it's still midnight somewhere, or if it's still before midnight somewhere, you can still submit. This is the latest. It can be midnight or 1 minute to midnight. So it should cover every time zone. If you aim to submit by midnight, wherever you are, you will submit on time. There's always a countdown here as well, so you can never get it wrong. As long as the countdown's still counting, you can submit here. That is our first checkpoint. I have seen a couple of questions in chat. Should we get approval for the idea first before we proceed building? You do not need approval before you start building, but you are always welcome to share your idea in the private Discord before you start building and ask for any input on it. But you do not need to be approved in order to build. That's up to you in the ideation stage. Walid has asked, do we need to build all three projects? No, you don't. I assume you mean the tracks. You do not need to build for all three of them. You only need to select one. If it comes naturally, you can choose more than one track, but you don't need to. That's all right as well. D'Amico, I've just seen your question. So yeah, you can select multiple tracks if you want down here, as I showed you before. In fact, let me create this project again so that when I show you the submission point, it will look a bit more accurate. So your first point of action is to create a project by the end of the week. And then halfway through the hackathon, so that is the end of the second week, we have what is called a mid-hackathon checkpoint. It's a very simple checkpoint. You're not going to be judged on this. You're not going to be marked. The point is it's getting you prepared so that when you need to submit your final submission, you're ready and you've got your not resources, you've got your submission materials prepared already. So at this point, you're going to be asked to share a GitHub repo and you're going to be asked to share a presentation deck. These technically could both be completely empty. I wouldn't recommend it because that means that you've been building for 2 weeks and you haven't committed anything, which is extremely risky. But if you really want to do that, then you can. The idea is we're just making sure that you know that by the end, you're going to be submitting your presentation and your GitHub. So it's having those links prepared ahead of time and accessible to the judges so that you are able to submit at the end of the hackathon. So that is at the end of week 2. And where you're going to submit is you're going to have a similar countdown to this one, just in the second tab here. And there'll be a submission button just here. Of course, submissions aren't open yet, but they'll open as soon as the first checkpoint passes. Similarly, at the end of week 4 is when our final submissions are. So that's the 26th of April at 1 minute to midnight. So if it's still the 26th of April where you're living, then you can still submit. There'll be a countdown. It will be in this final tab here. The things you're going to be asked to submit are the GitHub repo and the presentation deck, like you submit in the mid-hackathon checkpoint. You'll also be asked to share a live site, so a hosted site with some kind of front end, and also a video demo. So this is a video walkthrough, which is 3 minutes in length, and it shows the judges what it is you've built, and it gives them the necessary background to understand the product. This is your opportunity to pitch to the judges. So use this time really wisely, and definitely start creating this video ahead of time, because it's the most valuable thing that you're going to be submitting when it comes to judging. I have seen a couple of questions in chat, but I will get to them in a bit to make sure that we get through everything. So that we get through everything in the short kickoff here, so that we can get into the overview of Kite. So for those of you who are here with me now, you don't really need to know this, but if anyone is joining us late, then it'll be useful for you to tell them that the events that we're going to have in the hackathon, so this kickoff and also the finale, are being recorded, and they will be the recordings will be posted here in the Finish tab. So if anyone asks where the recording are, you can find the link there. Of course, we'll share with everyone as well. But just worth noting, if Vik says anything in a bit that you really want to go back and listen to again, then you can watch the recording there as well. Okay, so the second to last thing that I want to go through before I hand over is the challenges. Lots of you would have seen the updated prize pool, which is really exciting. I know I got loads and loads of questions about this. There is a $10,000 prize pool in the Kite AI Hackathon. This is going to be split across the top teams in the hackathon. The prize pool breakdown is in first, second, and third place. We can have 2 winners for second place and 2 winners for third. First place wins a big prize of $5,000. So I hope you know there's lots and lots to play for, and you're excited about the potential to win these prizes. It's worth saying that the sponsors have a right to adjust, which means increasing, decreasing, or redistributing the prize structure, depending on how well the submission requirements are met and the quality of the projects. But that isn't something that you need to worry about. It's just something to know in advance. It's really, really important that you take a look at the requirements here. So the hackathon has some very clear requirements of what you need to do in order to be eligible to submit and to be judged. So make sure that when you're building your project, you know these ahead of time. So you're not trying to make a UI one day before the deadline and the front end and the back end aren't connected, and then you failed the requirements. So make sure that you've checked these. They're very simple. You should probably be doing them anyway for a hackathon project, but make sure you've checked all the boxes just in case. We've also got some information on the judging criteria here. So the special things that the Kite judges, the Kite team and the hackathon judges will be looking at. So also bear that in mind when it comes to presenting your project. For example, if you're building a consumer product, then you really want to make sure that you're showing in your product how it solves a real problem and how well it runs in production, because that's one of the criteria, is how applicable is it to the real world. So making sure that within your pitch, within your video, you're sharing that information so the judges don't have to find it themselves, but it's right there for them to see, so that you can be judged well. Within this section as well, we have lots and lots of resources. I'm sure Vik in his overview is also going to point to some of these resources. But if you haven't already, which I know lots of you have, so well done. But if you haven't already, then definitely have a click through all of these to see what is possible, and all the tools that you could end up using. And finally, we have an overview of the 3 tracks in the hackathon. So if you remember up here, this is where you select your tracks. These are the track descriptions. So we have agentic commerce, we have agentic trading and portfolio management, and we have a novel track, which basically means you could build absolutely anything. If it's novel, if it's new, if it has a cool integration, then it's applicable in the hackathon and you should submit it. So using the first 2 tracks as a guide to what you might want to build. And then if what you want to build doesn't apply to either of these tracks, then the novel track is made for you. So I hope you're excited about the broadness of the hackathon and the possibilities of all the things that you could build. I'm really excited to see what projects end up coming out of the hackathon. That being said, the final thing that I want to talk about is the communication in the hackathon, how you can know everything that's going on and make sure that you're up to date. The main point of contact will be on Discord. This is where you'll be able to ask the Kite team questions. This is where you'll be able to get in contact with me. Everything will be done on the private hackathon channel. So in order to get access to it, if you don't see this already on your program page, then you'll see a little connect Discord button. And when you connect, then you'll be given the private access. Put all your questions here. We have a general channel and we have a technical questions channel. Both great places to meet others and ask your questions. All relevant updates will also be put in the announcement channel and sent to you in your email as well. So that's announcements about a checkpoint coming up, what's required for it, any new information that you might need to know, and also kind of useful tips along the way. So keep an eye out for your emails. They'll usually be coming from me or someone else from the Encode team. So we'll stay in contact over the hackathon, and we're here to support you as you build. So that is the main things that I wanted to cover on the hackathon logistics today. I will take a look at the chat now just to see. Let me stop sharing. Let me come back over to the chat, answer some of your questions, and then we will hand over to Vik for the overview of Kite. So let's see where I got up to. So I answered D'Amico's question earlier. You can do multiple tracks. Make sure that they naturally align with multiple tracks. Don't try and force multiple tracks into your project because that won't improve your chances of winning. And if anything, it will make your product more messy. But if it naturally falls into it, that's absolutely fine. Balaji has asked, what happens if I submit my project and then decide to change my idea? Can I still update? Yes, you can. So any of the details that you put on the platform, whether that's your project name, whether it's your description, the challenges, even the links, you will be able to update until the final submission time, which is the end of April. So anything you put in there is not permanent. It can be updated. Just make sure to keep an eye on the deadline, because once the deadline passes, you can't update anything. That's the final deadline. That's final. So after that, you can't update. Up until then, you absolutely can. So submit things early, and then you can update it if you need to. D'Amico's asked, is there a list where we can see everyone's project names? Just want to see what the competitors' faces. D'Amico, no, we do not publish people's projects publicly. So if you want to chat to other people about their projects, definitely use the Discord. I'm sure there are lots of friendly people who'd love to talk, but we do keep projects private, so only for the judges' eyes. Yusuf has asked, how sophisticated should the project be? Is there a minimum requirement regarding the complexity of it, or if at least the module I'm building is serving its purpose, it's fine, even if it's not super complex? Yusuf, this is an interesting question, not one that has a simple answer, unfortunately. This will completely depend on what the product that you're building is. If it's a very simple product that serves that has a purpose that is extremely novel and really, really useful in the Kite ecosystem, then it doesn't have to be complex at all. That being said, if it's a basic concept, but you're building something impressive on top of it, then the complexity will be higher than, or sophistication rather, will be higher than what would be required for something else. So I think for this question, you need to be more specific about what you're planning on building. In general, the judges want to see cool things being built, whether that's they serve a really good purpose or whether that's a really cool integration of Kite. You can have a look at the judging criteria to kind of weigh up where your project falls, but just make sure that you're being original, basically, and you don't want the judges to look at your project and see every other project in it. So have a think about it, share your ideas in advance on the Discord, and see if you can get any feedback as well. I definitely recommend doing that. Waleed has asked about API key pricing for Kite, which I will leave that question for Vik when we get onto the overview of Kite. Chuck has asked, are prizes given regardless of track? Yep, the prizes cover all 3 tracks, so they're given to the top projects in the hackathon overall. So the track that you choose to build for does not impact what prize that you can win or whether you win a prize. So the prizes are awarded across all tracks. So you don't need to be strategic or anything. Waleed has asked, do we need to deploy on GCP or Vercel, or we can use Azure? As far as I understand, that you just need to have it deployed. I don't think there's any specific hosting service that it needs to be on, but I will ask Vik to confirm that if there is any further specification. But as long as it's deployed, as long as it's accessible by the judges, I think that's fine. And Dinos has asked, Dinos, when we can start asking kite-oriented questions more specifically. Do you mean in the Discord or on the chat now? Because we're going to hand over to the kite overview now. So if you have kite-oriented questions, now would be a good time. But otherwise, anytime over on Discord, and I'll make sure that the kite team get their eyes on your questions, and you can get an answer to make sure you're not blocked. Otherwise, everyone, thank you for your questions. Hopefully this little overview has been useful and you know what's happening in the hackathon, you know what's coming up. Keep an eye on those deadlines. Keep an eye on any updates that are going around. But otherwise, I'm sure you know what you're doing. I'm sure you're all feeling confident about the hackathon. Well, I hope you are anyway. And I will hand over to Vik and we can head into the kite overview. Vik, are you ready?
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, so if you want to share your screen, I know you have a presentation. I will share the links, everyone, by the way, to the presentation after the session today, so you don't need to take any copious notes. Just make sure that you put any questions in chat, and all the links and everything will be shared with you later. Nice. Okay, I see your screen. I see myself in the bottom of your screen if you just want to close me off.
Is that better?
Yeah, nice. Looking good. Cool.
Okay. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone, wherever you have joined from. Thank you so much for taking your time and showing interest to build with Kite. My name is Vik. I'm the head of protocol at Kite. Before we begin, I wanted to give you some background about how Kite started. So, the founders of Kite, Chi and Scott, they were building Zeta Block, which was an indexer. So they had seen a lot of indexers back in the day, and they realized that most of these indexers were very standard indexers and were not able to apply any logic or algorithms based on how they would capture the data or how they could be accessed. So they came up with an idea of creating what they called advanced API for these indexers, which meant that you could create some better features, more algorithmic features around these indexers, which could be accessed by blockchains. And then they observed very closely that there was a very huge narrative shift after the 2022 AI hype, that a lot of teams were starting to build AI solutions. And both Scott and Chi come from a very deep data and AI background. Chi, for example, comes from Berkeley, and Scott worked with Uber in the AI project back in the day. So they teamed up with a couple of the other folks, including a few blockchain people, one of my colleague from Near, and myself. And the idea was to create what we call as the first AI native blockchain. Now, the idea was most blockchains, if you remember, were trying to retrofit AI into the narrative. Whereas we believe that the blockchain should be looked at from a different perspective, right? Where AI is, or AI data, or AI actors in the ecosystem should be first class citizens and not an after the fact thought. So what we started with was AI native blockchain, and then we narrowed down to what problems do we want to solve with this blockchain. And we saw that AI payments is a very interesting space, which, as we all know, has global adoption, right? Whether it is movement of funds across the globe, whether it is remittances, whether it is access to different stable coins across various countries because of regulations. A lot of these payments rails already existed. And what we had to do was basically to bring these payment rails onto the AI blockchain that we have been building for almost a year now. So that's where we land into what we call as AI native infrastructure that we are building that will focus on identity, on the payment, governance, and verification of anything that you do with AI, which writes onto blockchain for trust and for verifiability. I will also share some more details about the different sources where you could go and read more about the background, the history, and the more details, along with content, architecture, or white paper, among others. But this is the premise. And then around 2023 November 24, sorry, November 2024 is when we started Kite uh, as a company. Most of us joined in during the first month, and we started building the blockchain infrastructure or this AI blockchain. And around November 2025, a year later, we launched our token, which we wanted to use as a utility for various purposes, including payments and creating a healthy ecosystem around the token narrative. Uh, and we launched on Ethereum, and then we bridged it to two other chains, Binance and Avalanche. Uh, in a few weeks, we are going to launch one of our very flagship feature, which we call as the passport, which will also have a lot of these narratives that I mentioned with features along with identity, payment, mandates, and verification with it, along with a follow up of our launch of our custom blockchain, which will be able to support all of these things in a very native way. Uh, Moving on, these are some of the backers and VCs that helped us grow from where we started. So PayPal was one of our earliest backers, followed by General Catalyst, 8VC, followed by Coinbase Ventures, Samsung, SBI Holdings, and quite a bit of Web2 names that you can read here. We also were backed by, in fact, we are also backed by some of the known Web3 investors like Coinbase, Avalanche, Animoca, Layer Zero, among others. So, like I said, when we started designing this, we had to understand from the first principle thinking, as they call it, right? We saw that agent were moving beyond just answering questions. So earlier we had what we call as a co-pilot AI solutions, right? Where you ask a question, it answers based on what has been fed to it, or it goes to the internet and tries to gather some information using this LLM and models, and it was able to answer questions that you asked. And then we started seeing some of these agents were able to do tasks on your behalf, right? Whether it was managing a portfolio or executing certain tasks to automate something for you. That also included some of the things that we saw with X402, right? Where you could actually assign or mandate a certain agent to make payment on your behalf. And that's where we started seeing the future or the vision that traditional payments wouldn't solve the problem of agents executing these transactions. So, like what you see on the slide, all these traditional payments were designed with the assumption that there's always a human that is going to click, verify, accept. There was a lot of manual approval flows within it, which also meant, you have to go and fill your credit card, identity, your credit scores, among others. However, this paradigm shift was already towards machine readable authorization, as we call it, right? That the machine, in this case, let's say there's a payment uh, checkout system that could actually understand where this agent is coming from, who's the owner of this agent, what's the reputation of this agent, and be able to programmably make the payment based on the identity and provide verification on chain and also auditability, as well as based on the reputation score of the agent or the person that has built the agent behind this agent. And that's where we started to move towards what we call as agent to API payments, right? From human to API to agent to API payments. Now, we had already anticipated that there will be a world where there are more agents using the internet than humans, right? Because there's no limit to spinning up agents, as you can imagine. And we started building towards this vision, and where then we started looking at how can you verify agent identity, how can you do stablecoin native settlement, right? We didn't want to solve the problem of finding a new coin or a new stablecoin, because we had seen that this problem was already solved by some of the earlier stablecoin solutions, where PYUSD, our backer, PayPal being one of them, right? And then this also required real time, low latency, and millisecond level execution, which meant that if there are 100 agents hitting the same API or hitting a particular solution, you cannot have the same queuing mechanism that was designed, or the same blockchain indexing, or the same execution or creation of block that were designed without AI in mind. So that's when we started building what we call as this custom blockchain for autonomous AI agents, which is Kite AI. And we also made a very conscious choice at the time of selecting the blockchain to make sure that we still keep it EVM compatible, because we also understood or realized through our research that the largest part of users, DeFi tooling or application tooling, or even the liquidity was sitting in the EVM world. So we didn't want to create a new world of our own, which meant that you had to spend your energy in getting all the liquidity use cases and others on your non-EVM chain. That's why we chose to build this on the EVM layer one. Uh, like I said, if you see today's agents, right, a lot of them cannot pay autonomously. So you have to create authentication. A lot of them can be authenticated, but you cannot provide a proof on chain, which is also a big gap, right? That the agent can execute something in the wild, and you do not know who executed it. What is the is it something that I can verify? Sometimes it can live on a black box. I think that is where the private public combination of AI with blockchain makes it very powerful. And a lot of these AI agents also, as you know, they cannot access this Web2 APIs natively, right? That also gave uh, birth to this MCP solution, as we all know, right? We have seen a lot of these MCP solutions. We have seen a lot of these platform APIs from OpenAI, skills, to name a few, plugins, connectors on the cloud ecosystem. So that's already a very big paradigm shift from how we have traditionally built Web2 APIs for humans versus what we see APIs being built for AI agents. So with Kite AI, we uh, came up with what we call as a passport, Kite Passport. I'll give you a very quick sneak peek at the end of this presentation, where you could request for access to this passport, and you can spin up your agent, create a session which can be connected to your cursor, and you could choose between OpenAI and between Claude where you want to run it. You can tag, or you can build your own X402 solution. You can create your own 8004 on-chain reputation system. A lot of teams back in the day have done it. I'll also give you some references to those teams for inspiration at the end of the slide. And then, as you can imagine, right, you could write it on Kite testnet. If you want Kite testnet tokens, you can go to the FOSSE. Again, will be provided to you on a link. And or if you want to build something very mainstream and want to launch at the end of the hackathon, we can also help you with getting Kite mainnet tokens if you get selected and want to make it a full-blown project. And then, like we say, right? So this is our takeaway from this slide. We say that we started moving away from prompts to what we call as programmable economic actors. A bit of a tongue twister there. So we do not need to keep feeding prompts to these agents. If the agent understands the context, if the agent understands the mandates, if the agent is whitelisted to a set of uh, end points, and there are right agent APIs in place, it can execute a lot of these transactions autonomously. And that is the goal that we want to achieve with Kite AI. I hope that clarifies the goal and the expectation here. Now, like I said, there are different layers, right? The first layer is for trust and governance. Like we said, we are ERC 8004 compatible. We have not officially been launched on 8004, but you can deploy your own 8004 version and create a trust and governance or reputation system around your agent identity, right? You can create an identity and it can start getting a different reputation, which can be used for governance. The middle layer that you see, like I mentioned, is the agent payment layer, where you can integrate it with X402. You can use some of these stablecoin payments, including our own version on testnet. And then you can also have what we call as delegate agent wallets, right? Where you can actually delegate wallets to different accounts. It can be an EOA account, or it can be an account that is created specifically for an agent, something that we'll also see at the end of the presentation. And like I mentioned, the base layer in this case is agent native settlement, where you are settling all the actions of the agent on chain, on Kite chain in this case. And then you can also have a lot of these internet native payment standards that are being built, like X402 being one of them, that is going mainstream, as we all know. We will come up with a couple of more services that are being launched recently. And then you could also use these facilitators that we have built, X402, if you would want to do like a cross-chain settlement with base chain or Solanas of the world. That's also an option. So what are the unique features? So we saw that there was a lot of adoption overheads with the blockchain world, which can sometimes be very complicated and also not very native to AI builders. So our focus has been targeting AI builders that can also very easily abstract the complexity of blockchains. So we built what we call as zero fee RPC, right? That you can get sponsorship so that you do not have to go and keep buying tokens and paying for gas to build some solution. So we have this 3-tier architecture, right? Where you can set limits at the root level of identity. You can set limits at agent level identity, and you can also set rules and mandates at a session level identity. For example, if I am the root user, I can have an EOA account, right? Like the main account. And then I could delegate a certain percentage of that money that I have in my main account to what we call as an agent account that does a specific job. For example, my agent could go and buy something on Amazon.com. Now, what we have also done is at the third level of this three-tier architecture, we have created it to a third level of granularity, where if I would want to go and buy a pair of jeans on Amazon.com, you could actually define the mandate, the limit at that particular session. The moment the session opens up, you can define the session to a day, to 7 days, and then also define the limits for that particular session so that your impact surface is something that is in your control and it doesn't impact at the root level or at the agent level, and it's only contained at the session level. And for that, we have delegated agent wallets as a feature. Like I mentioned earlier, these delegated agents also get their own on-chain identity or on-chain account. We have Kite Passport, which stores all your information about the agent, the limits, the sessions, what it is allowed to do, which systems it can communicate with. And then we also have a Kite MCP, which, as we all know, like the MCP is the middleware that helps you connect or expose your services to be able to perform cross application services or features. So I think Rebecca mentioned very briefly, we also came up with some ideas or inspirations. So what are the things that you could build, right? So the expectation is we would want to see as many agentic solutions being built as possible, where blockchain is used as the backend of the infrastructure, not the other way around, right? Try to build things that can show as much of autonomous execution as possible. If you could do uh, workflows using multiple agents, even better. But the idea is that the agent should be able to execute a certain task as much as possible end to end. Now that doesn't mean that you cannot build tools, right? You can also build tools that becomes part of this entire autonomous workflow of agents. These tools could also solve something for the industry, right? Where we as Kite team can be very proud to say that the team that was building on Kite built something which helps or solves problem for the open source world, right? So something that could be used by Kite, but also for the open source world. Quick mention here: we are also part of the Linux Foundation Agentic Alliance Foundation. So that's something that we are a part of, and we are very proud and also very uh, glad in a good way to mention that to the participants. Like I said, so you have to reduce as much as possible so that people or humans keep clicking these wallets and try to automate that feature through agents or through API calls as much as possible. That's why the category here, if you see, we call it agent first solutions instead of human first solution. And then agent that could interact with other agents, right? For example, for agentic commerce, and that's the second category that we mentioned here, we would want to see that the agent being able to discover products either through a prompt or through intents where you just say, I want to buy something which is uh, good for my for a healthy breakfast with high protein content on a certain site that tells you what are the options you have instead of asking for something which is like a protein bar directly, right? So that can be an intent based solution that you could build with agents, right? So that I do not have to say specifically what I need, but I tell the goal that I want to achieve, and it goes and tells me what are the best options available on a certain e-commerce portal, and then be able to handle purchase workflows, some subscription, add limits to it, and do a checkout, right? The checkout could be based on payments. The checkout could be based on USDC that we have on chain. So when you register on the portal that we can give access to you guys based on your request, if you want to use this part of the flow, it gives you a certain amount of tokens that you could use and build a lot of these solutions and test them well enough. And like I said, AI procurement bot for enterprises, right? Doing procurement of what services are available on the internet. The agent can help and go and find something for you. If you are an enterprise, try to build marketplace agents instead of just deploying marketplace agents that do nothing, but a marketplace agent with a very specific theme, right? Like compete and optimize for the best price, compete and optimize for the best design, and so on and so forth, right? Instead of building a very generic marketplace, we would also like to see a marketplace which is very specific. The other large category is agentic trading. Like I said, should be able to analyze market, execute trades, whether it is on the traditional market or it is on the blockchain DeFi market. It doesn't matter, but it should be able to do some of these things, right? Optimize yield, find arbitrage opportunities, help with avoiding liquidation of portfolio or positions that people have on a traditional market or on a DeFi market. And then portfolio agents, right, which can give you a view of what your portfolio is, like a dashboard of where you're doing better, where you're doing worse, and some recommendation system around it would be really great to have. And then what are the different hedging strategies, right? Whether within the traditional system or on the web DeFi uh, solution as well. And agentic trading with some reputation scoring, some capital delegation that delegates at every 20% increase or buy sells at every 30% increase and things like that, right? Those kind of ideas are some of the inspirations. Of course, like I said, you can choose as much as you want, but these are some of the core areas that we would like to see some of the solutions being built. Another thing that I also want to mention here is we also want to see, like what Rebecca mentioned on the website, try to also not limit yourself to only agentic commerce and agentic trading. Come up with something that you think could be very novel or creative. Like we have one of the winners from the previous hackathon that came up with a very nice kite tracing platform idea, which was beyond these two ideas, and that was one of the winners because traceability on chain is a very interesting topic, right? For example, you could build an AI explorer or a kite chain. That could be a very interesting topic, right? Uh, or come up with something that like a clawbot, for example, right? That could be another idea. Doesn't fall in these two categories, but still is very novel or creative. Now, very briefly, also explained earlier by Rebecca, what are the criteria, right? Or what are the things that you should demonstrate? So ideally, like I said, it should be a web app, right? Where you give me a link on Vercel, Railway, or deployed on AWS that I could click and see how the app or the product works, or a CLI tool, right? If it is a terminal based tool, what can I do with it, right? How does it work? The agent, like I said, should be able to execute, or your solution should be able to execute as independently as possible with little to no human interaction. And then use Kite for on-chain settlement and on-chain proof and verifiability. Make sure your demo works end to end. Very important. You've seen some demos in the past where it either worked or it didn't work completely. Have a clear GitHub repository with a clear README so that I could follow the instructions, uh, reproduce it locally, and test it also myself, right? Or me or my team member, and then come back to you if there are any queries. Like I said, bonus is if you can come up with multi-agent coordination, scope permission and revocation, come up with a new AI tooling around it, work something with gas abstraction. So there's also a page that I'll take you where you can find gas abstraction documents of Kite, and then come up with anything that is very novel or upcoming. Kite bounty overview, like I mentioned. So this is what we have. Like I said, building AI native solutions. Also mentioned in the previous presentation. So we have this pool of $10,000. Like I said, the first prize winner gets $5,000. There will be one team that will select. We want to select two teams in the second prize category because we want to give opportunity to as many teams as we could. And the third would be $1,000 each. So a total of 5 teams will be selected. Last time we selected 5 teams for the prize, but we also had a very interesting six team that was not given a prize, but we thought he was building something really good, and we gave him an opportunity to talk to us, talk to the CTO, and pitch the idea and keep building further. Now, these are very specific to this Kite Global Hackathon with Encode. The road or the journey doesn't end here. So after this, as a practice, what we do is we reach out to uh, we are going to do a deep dive analysis of every team that has built something. There is going to be a consensus of 4 or 5 people making a decision of the winners. We'll reach out to all of these teams, talk to you, understand why you built with Kite, what is your solution about, what is your vision around taking it to a production grade solution, what support do you need from Kite, and what is your vision of launching this as a full blown product. So this is how we want to take this entire journey and not limit it only to the hackathon. We will also come to you and make announcements. So Kite has a very large following on social media. If you would have noticed, we will showcase your project. We will do winner interviews. So you will also be showcased as the winner of Kite, where there will be a proper Netflix style interview, if I can call it. Short documentary, 2 to 3 minutes, where you would talk about your background, what you build with it, if you're comfortable, of course, and why you built with Kite, what is your idea, and what is your vision around taking this to production. So amplification of your idea, amplification that you have won, and amplification of you as an individual will be done over a period of 1 month, even after the hackathon ends. And the support beyond that will also continue, like I mentioned earlier. Judging criteria, please focus on minimum human involvement, right? Try to have as much of scope as you can have, as much of rate limiting, right? Because if you build something that is like completely accessible to everyone, you can bring down the system, have clarity on how you build things, have a very clean documentation in place, and focus on usability, right? So that the user gets a very nice user experience, like the wow moment. Try to build something which solves real world problems, right? Beyond local demos or beyond hype. So last time we saw a lot of teams trying to build something around Claw, which we thought was very short lived. But the teams that won were the teams that were building traceability solutions, There was a team that was building multiple LLM, combining into a LLM council of sorts, some agent colony with multi-agent interaction. You get the idea, right? The more long term, the better it is, and the more kite aligned or more industry aligned, the better it is. And like I mentioned, very important, should be able to run on Vercel, AWS, Railway, and other platforms if it is a non CLI solution. Come up with more novel solutions, something that works with AI tools like Cursor, Claude, agentic workflows, among others. So this is our team. We call it like the best of both the worlds, AI and blockchain. He, like I mentioned, comes from Databricks, ex Berkeley, worked with Dot Data. Scott, another co-founder from Uber, Salesforce, uh, worked with Electronic Arts as well, and was part of the Salesforce Einstein AI team. Ehsan, our latest hire, head of product, comes from PayPal, also Uber, Goldman Sachs, and Berkeley. Yusuke has 30 plus patents in AI and worked with NEC in the day. Dot was the founder of Dot Data. And this is our team for blockchain. Yijing comes from VMware, McKinsey, Lei from Near, Harvard, MIT. Myself, briefly from Near Foundation, was part of Linux Foundation, Infosys, and ING Bank. And Henry, our colleague, also comes from the Solana world, from Oxford University, and was leading a couple of startups back in the day. A long list of resources. So this is the Encode page where you guys have already registered. There's a Kite Docs. You can read a lot here. You can search in a very AI friendly way of all the resources we have. There's a demo of Kite Agent Passport that you can look up here. Gasless implementation. Then there's AI account abstraction SDK. A couple of sample dApps if you're a first time blockchain builder that is prioritizing AI over blockchain. You can also reuse a lot of components or the whole component from this counter dApp. Some information about Kite Chain, very handy for you to be able to go and pick up information about how to set up for Kite. A lot of Kite tools sit here. Cross-chain solutions with layer zero is on this link. Then we have indexers if you want to build something around data or AI explorer of sorts. Some USDC yield solutions could be built using our Lucid integration. And if you would want to do something with multisig, you can actually also visit this site. So some inspirations, like I mentioned earlier, right? So this is what we saw being built at ETH Denver a month ago, where we had a team that built agent mandate, intent-based solution, and zero knowledge verification on Kite Chain. There's also a link. You can go and view the video, the solution, and GitHub links. That was the team that won the first prize. Kite Trace platform, very interesting, built by an individual where you could go and check Kite, the repetition score, and the person kept on building even beyond hackathon. And now we are really having a very advanced level discussion with him to see how we can integrate his solution into our ecosystem as a community project. Third, the minority report, very interesting, LLM council of sorts, where they built an agentic solution that actually goes and checks answers of various prompts, not only on one LLM, but a group of LLM, but also focuses not only on the most liked comments, but also the comments which may have like a minority vote, but will still have a lot of weightage or value in making a decision whether one information is correct over the other. Agent marketplace, like I mentioned, agent to agent e-commerce economy, very interesting as well. Like I mentioned, cross agentic solution is very interesting for us. And then there was this agent colony job marketplace, where there's an agent that posts the requirement, and the other agent actually goes and finds all the relevant jobs for that particular agent to be able to find assignments for it. This was like an online job portal, not only for humans but for the agents. The full link to ETH Denver Hackathon can be found here. There were like 35 plus projects that were able to successfully build over a 3-day period and submitted all the projects at this link. But these were the 5 projects that we thought were very interesting, and they built with us and won some prizes. These are our online links. So this is our Twitter handle or X. If you go, you'll see the names of these winners and also their videos talking about what they built with Kite, their product, and their motivation behind it. We have our own Discord that you can follow on what's happening with Kite on LinkedIn as well. Uh, for the hackathon purpose, I think Rebecca and team will give you a separate Discord, or you might already be in there where you can ask questions. Uh, Post hackathon, you're more than happy to join and welcome to join. In fact, our Discord channel. This is our GitHub where there are a lot of open source projects you can see and follow. From our side is me and Laughing, my colleague, who will help you with the entire hackathon. So please feel free to DM us or tag us if you need any help, if needed, or share anything with us. So that's all from my side. One thing that I wanted to share was this portal, which is our Kite portal. I'll share the link of this portal as well on the site. If you're building something with agents specifically and would want to have session-based identity or customize these agents, create MCP, connect to Cloud or to OpenAI using Cursor, you should reach out to me where you can do a lot of these custom payments, session-based and payment-based setting for all of these agents. That would be all from my side. And again, thank you very much, everyone, for taking your time out and showing interest to build with Kite. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on Discord or ask Rebecca to help you guys reach out to us.
Thank you so much, Vik, for giving us that detailed overview, but also the insights on the hackathon as well. We've had a couple of questions in chat, and thank you everyone who has put questions here. A couple of them I might ask for you to move over to Discord to get a more detailed and thought out response, rather than asking Vik to come up with one on the spot. But we'll quiz Vik on a couple of questions about Kite's services tooling to see if you can point people in the right direction, but otherwise we'll get answers to you as quickly as possible. So the first one I see is Balaji, who is looking to build an idea that involves batching payments for service usage. Vik, do you know if Kite has a way of knowing whether an agent has used a particular service or a particular API?
Yes. So with the agent passport that I shared, again, wanted to reiterate, the agent passport is on demand now. If anybody would want to build with it, they should just send a request and then we'll add you to the link and you get X amount of USDC, pretty high at the moment, so that you can do enough experiments with it. So the answer is yes. Short
Nice.
answer.
Thank you. So Balaji, if you send that request to get access to passport, you should be good to go. I want to check. Dinos has asked. Dinos, to summarize, has said that they've started to build it on testnet, but they think it'd be better to build directly on mainnet. Is mainnet ready for that? Vik, do you think
It is.
builders directly
Yes.
on mainnet?
Yeah, so our mainnet has been ready for more than a couple of months now. We are still doing a lot of security audit, so that's why we have not made it public yet. But if your solution is really applicable for the mainnet, please reach out with a one paragraph explaining why you would want to build with mainnet. Happy to help you get the tokens and provide you all the details. Can also be all the settings and information about Kite mainnet can also be seen on our doc site, by the way.
Okay, amazing. So two very positive answers there for the two questions that I've seen so far. I see a couple of other things in chat, but not things that we'll answer in the session now. If you do have other questions after everything that Vik has gone through today, then please put them over on Discord. Hopefully you're all in the private channel already, but if you're not, after the session ends, make sure you go and connect your Discord to get access so that we can answer those questions there. Thank you everyone so much for joining us for our kickoff event. I hope you're all really hyped for the hackathon. I am. We have just reached time. We have about 20 seconds left. So we will wrap up now, but thank you everyone for your time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you submit in the hackathon. Balaji, I showed you earlier, if you go to your private hackathon page on the platform, there'll be a button to connect your Discord account and get the private role to access the channel. If you don't see it already, there's on the Encode Discord, there's a kind of graphic showing you what it looks like. So have a look there. Really quickly, I'll answer Douglas's question about requirements for GitHub. Your repository needs to be public. That's the only requirement, so that the judges can access it. Otherwise, everyone, thank you for joining us. We will see you all very soon, but good luck, and let us know if you have any questions throughout the build. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks, Vik.
Thanks, everyone, and good luck.